It's a Tuesday. It's July 18th, 2023. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. The weather best described as really typical mid-July weather. We've got some summer heat. We've got some monsoonal moisture finally arriving, and we'll have some shower and thunderstorm activity around. Temperatures and conditions about where you'd expect to be in the middle of this month. The mid part of summer here, so we are going to see temperatures ease a little bit. It was a real hot one yesterday for many areas as some of that desert southwest heat nudged a little bit further north. But there'll be just a little bit of a slight drop back in temperatures today, more noticeable, especially east of the divide, but west of the divide as well, Wednesday through Friday, as that monsoonal moisture plume, several of these plumes will be increasing. And that's going to lead to afternoon and evening shower and thunderstorm activity. Yesterday, a lot of the shower and thunderstorm activity that developed was producing a lot of wind gusts, high wind gusts. You'll get that when you have some hotter, drier air around. What we do see is a definite cooling trend for the front range, especially of Colorado, but also the front range of Wyoming and southern Montana into northern New Mexico. There is going to be some upslope and monsoonal moisture combining for quite a cool down Thursday and Friday, and a good chance of rain and thunderstorm activity for those front range areas. This will be especially true on Thursday. Also, we're tracking severe weather, kind of show you some graphs of where we are. We've certainly had a lot of severe weather across the high plains and Rocky Mountains this summer and spring season. But how does it look if we gather up all the data, look at the lower 48, and we'll take a look at that. Great photos coming in. This is from the past weekend from those towering thunderstorms that developed across the high plains region, but also with the interjection of some wildfire smoke. Some of you have noticed it, that is coming from the fires in British Columbia. Great sunset photos rolling in from yesterday evening to last night. This one from Dave Bell in Pinedale. Look at that red sky, that orange color there from Deadwood, South Dakota. Deadwood area a little bit deeper where that smoke is, the smoke a little bit deeper up into those areas there. And also a beautiful shot from Sam in Lander. So when you do add a little bit of color in the air with that wildfire smoke, you can end up with great sunrises and sunsets, and we'll probably see that continuing for a bit longer. Satellite photo this morning shows a couple of things. Here are those nocturnal thunderstorms we've been talking about that continue into the nighttime hours, feeding the Corn Belt more areas of rain and thunderstorm activity. These little nighttime thunderstorm patterns, real key to keeping those crops growing. This is typical. One reason why we call this the breadbasket is because of the frequency of these nocturnal showers and thunderstorms that come off the Rockies and Plains and overnight and into the morning hours into the Midwest. And you can see moisture tailing back here when we look at just the visible shot of the photo when it comes to the satellite imagery. And you can see the thunderstorms down here in Mexico. And when we take a look at the water vapor is when you really see the structure to the moisture. The high is centered here, the really hot temperatures in the very dry air, and then the clockwise circulation. And there you can see the monsoonal moisture has thickened up considerably over the Great Basin now, over central southern Wyoming, all of Colorado into New Mexico now. So with daytime heating, this arch is where the activity is going to be today. Up here as well, notice there's a little swirl of clouds. There's an upper level low going across southern Canada right now. And you can see that in the water, precipitable water forecast. See that curl right there, that low? Well, this low up here is going to be tracking this way here in the next couple of days. And that's going to push a little bit of a cooler front back against the front range later in the week in that Thursday, Friday time frame. And then you can see that we've got this arch of moisture coming up from the southwest. And really, when you take a look at what will happen over time, there's the upper level low over southern areas of Canada headed this way. And that's going to flatten this ridge and suppress it a little bit. That's why temperatures are going to ease. So this is by noon today, and this is by Friday morning. So by Friday morning, that low tracks into the upper Great Lakes. But notice the high. See how the high is going west? So the heat dome is getting suppressed to the south and west, while you notice right here that the high gets pushed down and the colors change a little bit from those bright pink, red colors to gray or whiter colors out into the plains and east of the divide. And that's when we get that push of cooler air coming in from the northeast. At the same time, we have that arch of moisture going around the high, and this is where you're going to get a little bit of a collision right here between those different air masses. And that's what's going to lead to this better chance of shower and thunderstorm activity. Now, this is the precipitable water going through time here. See, this is for Thursday right there. You can see that area along the Front Range where there's deeper moisture. Then it kind of eases. Then the air gets a little bit drier for the weekend. Then as we go in the next week, it gets very, very moist again. These monsoon moisture plumes are just that. They're plumes. You'll get a deeper pocket of moisture followed by the air that'll be a little drier. Then a deeper pocket of moisture will come on in. It's never continuous. It kind of comes in surges. So you'll get 2 days, maybe 3 days of a lot of thunderstorm activity. You'll get a couple of days of just kind of spotty activity, and then it kind of comes and goes. But you can see that over the next 7 to 10 days here that we're going to be looking at these plumes coming on through this region, triggering those afternoon and evening thunderstorms. And while temperatures will be warm, this thunderstorm and shower activity will kind of keep a throttle on temperatures getting too hot or for too hot for too long. When we take a look at where the severe weather threat's going to be, more out into the plains, but you can see back here into Utah now, southern Arizona, thunderstorm activity getting a little bit more widespread, a little bit more commonplace. Tomorrow, the axis of the heavier weather more towards the Midwest, but you can see across the basin here, we continue to see scattered shower and thunderstorm activity. Drier air punches in up here tomorrow. Dry air down here, not much going on. But then it comes back on in as we get into Thursday. And we're also noticing it backing up against the Front Range because of that cool surge coming in from the northeast. So that's going to be a day to watch. Thursday will be. We may very well see the severe weather threat get expanded, kind of more like this on Thursday as all of those events kind of come together along the divide. And you can really see that. This is the 10-day precipitation forecast. Notice the heavier rains are just along and east of the divide, out into the plains, in those areas where the upslope and the monsoon will kind of come together. But you can also see the areas of showers and thunderstorms that are getting now into areas along and west of the divide. Significant rains up here in Alberta, parts of Saskatchewan and British Columbia. That should help out with the fire situation up there. Right underneath the dome of high pressure, you have that hot, dry conditions continuing over Texas there. Now, we talked about severe weather. Well, where are we on the charts with tornadoes? This black line shows the number of observed tornadoes so far this year compared to previous years. And this goes all the way back, I believe, to 1950, the early 1950s. So you can see we're right in the middle of the lowest and the highest frequency of tornadoes. So you would call that, if you're in the middle, you're right at average in terms of the number of tornadoes across the lower 48 states so far this year. So an average year when it comes to tornadoes in terms of number. Now, this may surprise some of you, especially in Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska, and parts of the Dakotas and Montana, where we've had a lot, and I mean a lot of hail this year. But on a larger scale across the lower 48, this green line shows where we are in terms of the number of reports of hail. The LSR means local storm reports. How many times hail has been reported to the National Weather Service by storm observers. What we are is basically this black line is the median. So we're actually, for the number of hailstorms reported in the lower 48 this year, we're tracking a little bit below the average. However, as with any data and any graphs and any charts, you got to be really, really careful. This doesn't mean that that's the way it's been in your backyard over your crops, especially in the western high plains where hail's been really bad this year. But overall across the country, it's actually trending a little bit below average. And when we take a look at wildfire situations so far, knock on wood, at least in the lower 48, the fire activity is picking up, especially here in the Pacific Northwest where it's really warm and dry. But so far this year, the wildfires have not been bad. I do expect that to change, though, with this heat and this dryness and all the spring growth that happened that is now drying out in some western areas. This is the wildfire fire potential outlook. The red areas show where there's concern for increased fires as we go into the latter part of July and through the month of August. But if we were to look at the trend so far of acres burned across the lower 48, 2023 way behind last year, which is good news. But obviously with us going into a drier time of the year and this warmer weather, this is likely going to increase, especially in the Pacific Northwest. We'll need to keep an eye on that. But so far this year, the number of acres burned way down, and we got to go back almost 10 years to see where it was that low. And again, there's some analogies to the 13-14 time frame in terms of where we were with La Nina cycles. 2011, 12 into early 13 was a strong La Nina, El Nino cycle, kind of basically where we are right here. So that'll be interesting to watch as we go through the rest of the fire season. Have yourself a very good Tuesday. We will see you tomorrow.